In the dead of night, a US military plane arrives in El Salvador. 10 men are taken away in shackles, in footage filmed by the Salvadoran government. The Trump administration alleges these are gang members, the latest of hundreds deported from the US. Critics say that all this, under the cover of darkness, is the US government's descent into authoritarianism. In the morning sun of Washington, D.C., the men who made it all happen. Donald Trump welcomes President Nayib Bukele, a man who dubs himself the world's coolest dictator and who has willingly helped Trump as he vows the largest deportation program in American history.
How many illegal criminals are you planning on exporting to El Salvador?
As many as possible.
But the problem is, who are they deporting? President Trump claims they are members of criminal gangs, but the administration admits it mistakenly deported and detained Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Salvadoran man who was living in Maryland. The Supreme Court said the US must now facilitate his release, and yet the government appears unwilling to do that.
I can tell you this, Mr. President. No, the foreign policy of the United States is conducted by the President of the United States, not by a court. And no court in the United States has a right to conduct the foreign policy of the United States. It's that simple.
And the Salvadoran leader said he's not going to help send Mr. Garcia back, falsely accusing him of terrorism.
I mean, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
Two presidents willing to deport and detain, but not rectify a wrong, with President Trump even suggesting American citizens could be sent abroad.
Does that include potentially U.S. citizens, fully naturalized Americans?
If they're criminals and if they hit people with baseball bats over their head that happen to be 90 years old, yeah, that includes them. What, do you think there's a special category of person?
This is a modern bromance wrapped in 18th century diktats. Because Trump is sending US deportees to El Salvador based on the 1798 Alien Enemies Act, which allows the US to detain and deport those from an enemy nation. It's only been used 3 times before, all when the US was at war. But for the Trump administration, this is a battle against criminal gangs like MS-13 and the Venezuelan group Tren de Aragua. And so they have rounded up hundreds of migrants, mainly from Venezuela, and sent them to this prison, CECOT, an institution notorious for its dire conditions. Both nations use the prison as propaganda. El Salvador's president shares videos online with dramatic music. The US Homeland Security Secretary proudly poses in front of those detained. Yet as the presidents today boasted of their alliance, outside the White House, people gathered in support of the detained Kilmar Abrego Garcia. The father of 3 has no criminal record. The US Supreme Court said deportees required due process, but the White House today clearly showed they were prepared not to listen.
We've heard from the administration that they're big on the rule of law. Well, here there's a clear violation of the law at all levels, right? Again, he was illegally detained, he was illegally moved, he was illegally deported, and he's being illegally held now in a third country.
This is one man's story that says so much more about a nation where everywhere you look, norms and rules are being stretched and broken.
Well, joining me now is Colleen Putzel-Kavanagh from the US-based Migration Policy Institute. Thank you for joining us. Now, Stephen Miller, who works in the White House, is denying that this man was mistakenly deported and that any law has been broken or that any judge's order was defied. What's the truth?
Well, I can't speak for Stephen Miller, of course, but I believe that several people have noted, including those within the White House, that this man was mistakenly deported. And right now, the administration is able to move ahead with using the Alien Enemies Act. However, they do need to offer the opportunity for judicial review. So if people could file a case to have judicial review done, they can't be expeditiously deported as those first few planes were.
Now, they're claiming that if you're a member of MS-13, you're a terrorist, and therefore you can't be protected by a withholding order. Is that correct?
Well, the withholding of removal was deemed his reason for being able to stay within the country, right? And now there are allegations that he may have a terrorist association. However, his withholding of removal case would need to be reopened and reevaluated to see if it would no longer be valid because of the alleged terrorist ties. But that case would have to be reopened.
So what does this tell us about the White House's approach to the law when it comes to deportation?
Well, what we're seeing right now is that the White House is trying a lot of different tactics to carry out deportations. They have set this goal for 1 million deportations per year, which is a very difficult goal to carry out given the resources that Immigration and Customs Enforcement has to arrest, detain, and ultimately deport people. And so right now, the administration is coming from all different avenues to try to stretch resources in different ways to be able to meet that goal.
Now, Donald Trump was asked if he'd quite like to deport Americans to El Salvadorian jails as well, and he sort of said he quite liked that idea, but he would do it within the law. Is there any way it could be done within the law?
I have not heard of U.S. citizens being held in prisons in foreign countries before, while they are still sort of prisoners of the United States. There may be some deep legal authority that I'm not aware of in order to do that, but I don't know of any case in recent history where that has taken place.
But what do all of these lines that are coming out of them tell you about where deportation and immigration policy are heading?
Right, so what we're seeing is that the administration is trying, like I said, all avenues to carry out deportations, and they're logistically very hard to do. And there's many countries with whom the U.S. struggles to deport citizens. This could be because of U.S. foreign relations, or this could be because of a country's inability to accept large numbers of immigrants being deported from the U.S. And so what that means is this sort of new look into what it could be to hold third country nationals in different countries than their countries of origin. So it's entering new territory in terms of trying to carry out deportations at a rapid pace and at a larger scale than what we've seen before.
And if people in the administration are prepared to just ignore court orders, what recourse is there? I mean, how can you protect anyone or stop anything happening?
Well, right. So right now we're seeing that most of the actions by the administration are being caught up in litigation. And there's several layers to many of these court cases. And there's appeals and there's time that will have to pass in order to really understand what this means. But certainly ignoring a court order by an administration would be an unprecedented moment in U.S. history. But we have to sort of watch and see as these play out to see what comes next and what the administration ultimately does. Right now, there's a lot of game of back and forth.
Colleen Putzel-Kavanaugh, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Now, during that meeting with the El Salvadorian leader, President Trump also said he would impose tariffs on drugs in his effort to move manufacturing back to the United States.
We don't make our own drugs, our own pharmaceuticals. We don't make our own drugs anymore. The drug companies are in Ireland, and they're in lots of other places, China. And all I have to do is impose a tariff. The more, the faster they move in. The higher the tariff, it's very simple. It's inversely proportional. The higher the tariff, the faster they come.